Tyon. Which all we got to call is Tyon. All right.
Tangent.
A Tyon. It's a Tyon tangent. That needs to be it. A Tyon tangent. Let's hit it.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, once more again, we are back with some good games, some high vibes, and some wonderful discussion topics. It's your main man, Andy Brown, right here on the Real University with high-class conversation from an HBCU perspective. If you have paid your phone bill this month, go ahead and hit your thumb and like this page. Follow us wherever you go, and make sure that you are getting the real, sharing the real, and being a part of the real. You feel me? As we about to break down this wonderful conversation, let me introduce not one, but two lovely ladies who are going to give y'all some good game from some grown folks' perspective. The lovely Miss Mia and the terrific Tian. Y'all ready? Let's get it.
Hey. All right. You ready, guys? Let's hit it. Here we go.
Well,
here's the conversation.
So not only are we not preparing our kids to be leaders, we not even preparing them for the job interview. Have y'all seen this? Let's talk about it. Who's to blame here? Listen, I thought the big reason why we go to college is so afterwards we can get a job. That might not be everybody's goal, but that's most of our, that's our goal, to work afterwards. And you mean to tell me that we can't even, parents, mentors, educators, we got to do better. It's not just about getting our kids through school and into college. It's about helping to equip them with the life skills they need to succeed in the real world. Eye contact, that's about confidence. Let me tell you, that's not just taught in a classroom. It's built over time with practice. Parents, this is something you can help your kids with. Unreasonable compensation. I heard somebody say, these companies not paying us what we're worth. It's not about that. It's good to know your worth, but y'all know these kids going up in these interviews asking for $1 million an hour. These kids graduating college thinking that the next day they're going to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Stop it. They need to do their research and they need to be reasonable in what they ask for in an entry-level position. The next two. Refusing to turn on your camera is like not showing up to a face-to-face interview. Turn it on. Parents, I blame you for that last one because there ain't no way you should be sitting up in your kid interview. Send your babies to me. We got work to do.
That one.
So, what I love about it is that we have come to little small points about these topics independently, and this wonderful young lady broke it all down in one space based off of those statistics. And so we are ready to talk about this one. Where do we begin?
I want to begin with the last point that she made, because 2 weeks ago, I was patronizing an establishment, and as I was waiting for my food, there was a mother and a young lady in there. When I tell you, the mother was speaking to the manager for about 45 minutes, trying to coordinate her daughter's interview with her daughter standing right there, telling the manager when the interview needed to happen based on when the mother could get the daughter to work. The mother is the one who pulled out the application from the envelope to give it to her. So I'm assuming the mother filled out the application, and I'm standing there, and this poor baby did not get one word in edgewise, and every piece of conversation or everything that came out this mother's mouth was based upon the mother's availability. Who's getting a job here? And mind you, this is a carry out food establishment.
So she's probably a high school student.
Definitely a high school student. But I'm sitting there, and I was with my girlfriend that I've actually known since middle school. And we sitting there like, I know when we went looking for jobs, I believe my mother just dropped me off at the shopping center. I went to every store. I filled out applications. I had the initial phone interview. The only thing that I asked my mother to do, and I had to be mindful, because we dealing with Black mamas here. Either I'm gonna take you or I'm gonna pick you up. Which one is it? But I obtained every job on my own after that. Not to say that, we learn in our adult life, networking and people, putting your name out there is good. And that's how you probably obtain a few positions. But for somebody to come in, interview you, and actually have the gall to tell the establishment when you're available, when you're not going to be the one scooping the peach cobbler into the little cups and putting them in the to-go bags and ringing people up. So to
Wow.
the lady's point, parents, what are we doing
What are
here?
you doing? What are you doing? Is that a
Well,
helicopter mom? Because us people without kids don't really
Definitely.
understand. Is that helicopter status?
wait a minute. What's helicopter status?
Oh, you haven't heard like what the term the helicopter mom is? It's the
No.
mother that hovers over their kid at every angle and every curve, whether it's school, work, athletics. Like the kid just shows up and the mother just takes over. I've heard it. I didn't experience a helicopter parent because my parents allowed me to be very much so independent. But I don't want to offend parents because I'm not a parent. But I've heard the helicopter. Zion, is that a helicopter mom?
That is
Why
definitely a
did you do
helicopter
that?
mom. And that phrase was
Okay.
kind of coined more so in the early 2000s.
Oh.
Um, but it's still relevant. And to your point, Mia, what happened to raising us to be independent? What
Mhm.
happened? And I mean, as a parent, I have a perspective, but I would love to hear Andy's POV on this from a male perspective, a male parent perspective as well. Like, what's going on with us right now that our generation is losing sight of what it's like to earn a living?
Sure. So there's a bit of a disconnect with time and valuing the time. We have been moved into more of an information age that everything is in front of us instantaneously. So
Mhm.
waiting for somebody to give us a result, it takes me longer to get my information about that job than it does to get my food. I have no patience. I wasn't
Mhm.
established patience. So I should think that getting a job and making money should be very easy. We didn't see our parents go to work or the struggles that they went through. And sometimes coming out of that change of mindset, your focus is class, grades, get your information. But if it hasn't been conditioned to you to understand, all right, well, now that you got that taken care of, make this shift and adjustment to doing the resume, getting it done, taking the actual process, right?
Mm.
We misplaced all that. And if you haven't got that established behavior up front, that disconnect can pull you back from even making that attempt because that's the initial step, right? It's not about once you have the job and you're in motion making money, it's actually getting that occupation and settling in. So you have to make
So
that adjustment up front and find where that disconnect is and connect those dots so that that's not even an issue anymore.
So, bringing it to the data that was given in that particular post,
Mm-hmm.
Tyan's example was one of a teenager, but these
Yes.
statistics were based off of college students.
Mm-hmm.
So, to her point, you go to school, you get this education,
Right.
you come out, and it's time for you to get a job,
Mm-hmm.
and your parent is going with you to an interview for your career path. This is not Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Burger
Right.
King, Sister Rita, Salsa Ritas, whomever the Ritas is, Ritas, right? This is accountant, this
Mm-hmm.
is sales, this is whatever the job is. And your parent is going with you. So that's beyond a helicopter parent because now you're talking about going to an interview with somebody who's in their early 20s.
A
Well,
lot of
Why
that.
let
is
me
it that this generation's parents feel that they need to go? And I guess it's kind of hard because we're starting at the end of the list, because at the top of the list there were some things that I think really
We
needed to
can
be
get there.
discussed. So we can finish this one off, but I think some of those top tier level ones result in the reason why people's parents are going with them to the interview. So I just want to say that.
Bring it on back.
Bring it
Okay,
on
so
back.
I'm gonna make a comment on that, Mia, from a parenting perspective, even though I knew what the future trajectory for my child should be. So we prepared for interviews. I was one, I mean, Andy just mentioned it. I had been going to work with my mother since I was 4 years old. So I knew
Me
professionalism. I
too.
knew how to answer the phones and things like
Mhm.
that. I also went to a high school that I had majors in high school. So I understood that if I was going into business, that whole process. But again, if I wanted to prepare my son for the next step, there were certain things that I did for him. But what I will
Mhm.
say is you've got to you have to either be self-conscientious in your own parenting to say maybe I didn't train my and prepare my child right. So in order for me to in order for them to get them, then maybe I need to insert myself in it. So that's parental insecurity.
So stop right there.
Yeah.
So stop right there. Because that's the first thing that she mentioned, which was struggle with eye contact.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a lack of confidence we started at you don't have that. Confidence. That speaks to the lack of confidence.
And that was the first thing she said. But if we go into what you just said, Tyann, because it ties right into what she just said, right? Not her, the statistics. Confidence, struggle with eye contact comes directly from that. And I think that you're correct. I don't really know. I mean, we could take it back. We're all from the same generation. So we could take it back. We were the kids that were the quote unquote, what was it called? Latchkey generation? Latchkeys. Okay. So the latchkeys grew up with a TV in front of them. Right. They came home from school. Parents weren't usually there. They had to make sure that they got out to school, came back home from school. And I'm just talking about in general, right? Now the latchkey, that these kids that we're talking about right now are our kids or some of our kids, because some people our age have kids who are this age, and that's a whole other conversation. But these kids that we're talking about are directly the kids who would be our kids right now. 21, 22, 23, right? So, Andy, do the math. We're doing the math. Is the math mathing?
Yeah, I had to find the 7.
I saw you. The math is mathing.
Right.
So, what if that's our generation? Then we didn't have the latchkey, the TV kid. We had the throw the phone in front of them, the iPad. We didn't disconnect from an actual television, which is something else that was a distraction. These kids are communicating in a non-social environment.
Hmm?
You skipped a generation. Between us latchkey, there was that generation of millennials that actually had after school programs. Because remember, we might have had a babysitter every now and again. We may have had, some extracurricular activities on the weekend, but remember, the educational system shifted towards working parents. So then you had all of these after school programs that you could put these kids in instead of having to be latchkey kids, or you could extend daycare. Because remember, I went to nursery school. I didn't go to daycare. Nursery school closed at a particular time. Or Miss May or Miss Barbara down the street could watch me if I was too small before I was actually a latchkey kid. But we had a generation of those that was after school activity, homework, mentoring, and all of that. That service was provided for them. So again, you've got an area of supervision or somebody looking over you during that time that we had before to exert our independence. Because what you did mention is when we did watch TV, we were still responsible for having our homework done. We had to go fix ourselves a little snack.
We had rules. We had rules we had to abide. And I personally think that our generation, just because they didn't like the rules our parents put on us, they didn't really put a whole lot of rules on a lot of kids. Yes. And I think that ruling or lack of ruling and the lack of hands-on created a lack of you're not instilling certain things in your kids. You're more so doing things to keep them occupied and not rearing them in certain spaces. And so when we have, because I was a confident kid, but my parents also big up my confidence, right? They big upped it at every moment. And so all of those things did not happen. And so these kids now, the products of those kids, and I'm not even talking about the babies having babies, all that, forget that, because I know babies who have babies and those babies are amazing, right? Yeah. So it can't even be that scenario. But when it comes to the engagement and how we deal with each other, I think that we lost sight on those lessons that happen at a very early age in life.
There.
Speak to them, honey. Say hello. Now, don't talk to my kid. It's like the conversation just kind of changed within the growing space. And we just don't do a lot of those things anymore. We don't speak to people when they walk into a room.
Courtesy. We don't teach manners. We don't teach posture. Like, no. I mean, these were these were certain things that I tried to instill in my son too, because I still think it is valuable, especially if he was going to go into business. There's still a certain posture that you have to command, and a certain amount of respect that you have to command with your presence. And I'll give shout outs to, your organization, Andy. Again, I put my son in Sigma Beta at 11. Those men taught him the handshake. Those men, even though I had started practicing, but those men made sure he perfected his Windsor knot.
Yes.
He learning how to tie a tie. Actually, that was a skill that I could pass on because my grandfather taught me how to tie his ties. But we're not sitting there, I know some people who were like, oh, he can learn how to do that on YouTube. No, there's something there's something about instilling confidence in your child when you do it with them, or when you show them how to do certain things. Again, you said it just a minute ago, Mia. You're occupying these children with devices and things like that. And is it because we're tired? But we shouldn't be tired. I know that
it's because we're also occupied with the devices.
Yes.
So I've watched parents shoo their kids away and give them YouTube because they want to be on Facebook and Instagram. Like, they're not doing anything. They want to be occupied with other things. Yeah. They got caught up in that whole. What'd you say?
Y'all didn't hear me when I said that, did you? I hope not. That kind of slipped out. They had to occupy more time with their side piece until the other person got home, because they really couldn't do nothing with their kid. Did I say it on did I record that? Oh, my goodness.
Did you just keep it real? Or did you just keep it real? You kept it real.
Keeping it real. When keeping it real is real. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but guess what? Ain't no lies told. No lies are told. No lies are told.
Because you told your child, don't say nothing. And they took that and still, when grown folks was around, they not saying nothing. Keeping their mouth quiet. You're not speaking up. You're not, and that is a very, very, very real concern, not only in the community, but with that age group.
Right.
You got to be able to speak in communication. Listen, regardless of the income that you want to make, the higher that you go, communication speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I break it down for my sports people right quick?
Please
You're breaking your body on the football field, on the basketball court, on the baseball field. We ain't got to hear you. We want to see you. Physicality. Oh, but the coaches and the commentators and the owners, they make the most money. They don't exert their body. They're speaking. They're communicating. They're telling you what's going on. Your offensive coordinator called the play, right?
True indeed.
So they're in charge, even in our corporate setting, right? The ones in the hotels, they do all the manual labor, and you never see the owners because they're just on the phones. They're making the calls. They're talking to the customers.
True indeed.
Increase your level of communication, folks, and that can help you change your money.
Come on now. And then from the words of Andy Brown, there it is. There it is. So, not to belabor that topic, but let's go, because I want to be able to get through the other things that she mentioned. Well, these statistics state. So we're talking about, so the next one was ask for reasonable. 50% ask for unreasonable compensation.
I had that conversation with, and I think we talked about that a couple episodes ago. My son referred a young lady to me that was interested in marketing and PR. She coming out the gate. Well, I got to be making six figures, at least 100,000. Baby girl.
Based on what?
Based on what?
What kind of projects have you done? Do you even know what type of position within the arena of marketing that could command that type of salary? Have you done any research on the positions that are available to you? Have you determined what sector of marketing that you want to go to? Are you going on the agency side? Are you going on the corporate brand side? I need you to research what those positions require and what level of expertise that you bring to the table. And I'm actually going to drop something that my mother always instilled in me. As an employer, I would look at her if she came in here and ask for that, because basically at the end of the day, I can say I don't reward failure. And your compensation is your reward. So if
Is
you're
that a mic?
setting yourself up for failure coming through the
Yes.
door, I'm telling you right now, I cannot reward or compensate failure.
Message.
Yeah, send, enter. I'm like button push. Oh, I
Did you
originally
lose? Did
wanted.
you get? Did you lose your
I,
train of thought, Mia?
man, I
Did she
lost
hit
it
you
because
hard with that one?
she did because I originally wanted to be the devil's advocate, but the reality of it is that there's so much mixed messaging in the social world that these kids live in because they see people posting and you can make $2,000 a day and you can make $100,000 a month and, on social media, right? But unless you went to school and majored in social media and how to execute in a certain space and you practice all the click funneling and you learned all these things throughout your process. And there are some kids who have made money in college that could justify that, but they started in high school. There in one of my communities, that's my happy space. The Planner Girl community, there's like 4 girls that started when they were in high school who own their own business, who are still in college, but they have high grossing businesses, but they started it in high school. And so, to what Tyann is saying, and to what these statistics are saying, you have to understand something. You're walking into an industry. My example is education. I went to school, double major, education and marketing. I knew what I wanted to do in education, and I wanted to fulfill that first. When I was in college, I was making $36,000 a year for my junior and senior year. Well, actually, my junior year I was making a little less, and then my senior year I got a raise, and then it was salary. And I was working with Sodexo Marriott, right? I graduated from college, went to work in education for the Archdiocese and was making $19,000 a year. I left the Archdiocese and went into another what is it called? The Edison School way, because it's not really partnership, but that's what it was in Baltimore. And my salary went from 19 to 36,000. And then I left there and went into the optical world, and by the time I reached management, I was at 6 figures. But I had already had management experience, to Tyann's point. I had already had operations experience because I had that when I was in college for 2 years, and I was educationally trained on it. I had business education. So all of my experience led me to a space where I was able to go. But you notice I went from high to low, from low to moderate, from moderate to, and it kind of escalated. But these kids are walking in saying immediately, I need to make 6 figures. But you don't even know how to have an interview, and you don't even know how to show up to work appropriately. So let's talk about it for a second. Because who's having that conversation with them?
A lot of times we're not even taking the initiative to go and do.
Right.
It's not going to be given to you, right? You said it so yourself. You went from this. You went from, that's tense. That's a verb, right? So it's an action word. You moved.
Right. Yep.
You weren't given. You weren't assigned. So if we just hand you $100,000 and you're not responsible, you don't even know what to do with it. I'm not only mismanaging my business, but I'm not teaching you and lining you up for proper success.
Right.
Failure on both ends.
The kicker is when you look through the job posting and you see the roles and responsibilities that are laid out, and sometimes they tell you what the duties and roles and responsibilities are. Are you comparing that to your skill set, which would be lower or entry level, or did you just go and look up CEO or VP of so and so and such and say, I'm actually going to apply for this because I'm quite sure you're gonna got your resume is gonna get lost in the algorithm.
Right.
Right. That's
right.
a double-edged sword. So you can give the paper, but you still have to take the interview.
Absolutely.
Still gotta take the interview.
So my question is, and I would love, and I know that this conversation I would just love to know what the thought process is and what the expectation is, because I always feel like if you understand the expectation, that's how you can manage it, right? So, like Tyann said, at what point, where did you go? Which road did you go down to figure out that I can literally say and expect a six-figure salary when 9 times out of 10, when you were in college, the job that you had was not in your occupation.
Well, let me, Mia, we've joked about this before, and quite honestly, I've said it because I'm on campus. I'm on campus quite a bit, but I would really love to go and sit down with some of these professors and see what it is they're teaching. Because again, I mean, I stay close to marketing, but these new crop coming out of school, I'm like, y'all don't understand the basic fundamentals. So, what are the professors actually teaching? What is career development talking to them about? Like, how do you, I mean, unless, we've got the bubble kids in their own minds and in their own worlds, they're thinking, after I take my capstone course, I know everything that it is to do and excel in this area. So, I'm going to submit a resume to a company and apply for a position based off of my resume from middle school to college and really expect to get this job. Like,
So
again, where is the concept of reality here? Why is that missing? Professors, can you help me understand?
So I think from an educational standpoint, I think that we're seeing the reality of the disconnect in how different portions of life make life what it is. Because school, there are a lot of students who are in school who are online. So they lose that indirect conversation. So we, as an educator, very rarely did I teach from the text, right? Because if you teach from the text, you flipping pages, it gets boring, right? When we were in school, professors covered the topics, but they didn't necessarily teach from the text. They taught from experience. So if you are taking virtual classes, where with virtual classes, you are not connecting with the teacher, you are delivering assignments, you are getting a syllabus, you are delivering assignments virtually, and at some point in time, you may have the exchanges through the digital responses of an actual email or the groups or whichever bots and boxes you use, but you're not engaging with students anymore. Now,
Dang.
kids are on campus. Kids are on campus now, right? They're still on campus, but the conversation is different because the population is different. They don't have the Dr. Gibsons. They don't have the Dr. Bogosians. They don't have the Professor Manus. They don't have the professors that we had anymore. They're younger or they're older and have no desire. They're just there and they're lazy. So it's so many different dynamics that we can look at when it comes to this. So they're not getting that feedback that we got when we were in school. I don't know. I don't know where the real world experience lies. I don't know where that is.
Well, let's also take it back to another point that she hit on, teaching these children life skills. Now, I know that has been a struggle because again, I'm like, okay, you're gonna need to learn how to cook, you're gonna need to learn how to pay bills, you're gonna need to learn how to do a lot of things, you're gonna learn how to drive. You know where I was going with that.
Right.
But where did we falter in teaching life skills? Is it because of the generational trauma that we experienced because we had to learn all of those things early? Like, I literally got behind the wheel of a car at 14. I literally, I had to cook for myself, but sometimes in the summertime, I was also responsible, and my older cousins passed that down to me, being responsible for all of the little ones having a meal. The fact of the matter that our parents could send us to the store and we with the right amount of money, but make sure that we had the right amount of change coming back. We walked a lot of places. We took the bus to a lot of places. There was no, picking you up all the time and things like that. Like, where is it because of our generational traumas that we have coddled them so much that we've now got the helicopter parent saying at 35, I still have to take you to work. I still have to take you to the job interview and actually, do the job interview. I can understand a parent giving their child pointers, and that's if you know that space. I mean, a lot of us are professionals, so we know that space, but giving them pointers, but to literally go in and like expect that I can answer these questions for my child.
Andy, what
Like,
you think?
is it our own response to our own generational trauma And I mean, one thing that has, I mean, this is a tangent, but one of the things that's come up with my peers is a lot of us grew up urban. Our kids know nothing about being urban whatsoever. We, they don't
Right.
know about street smarts. They don't know about keeping the head on the swivel and things like that. Because I mean, quite honestly,
It's in
what
their
kind of
phone.
It's in
do
their
they know?
phones. You're
It's
right.
in
They're
their
looking
phone.
down in their phones all day. Right.
Oh,
Right. It's in their phone.
they definitely know how to be thumb thugs, but at the moment anybody thinks that they're being bullied, they fold. I mean, we
Right.
had to deal with bullies. So is it one of those things that we have really made our kids soft because we're trying to protect them? And I know every parent wants to make better for their children and things like that. But what was the fine line for that? Because have we raised a bunch of softies?
Let's find out.
Andy?
Let's find out if we did. How about utilizing this platform to be the virtual aunties and uncles to really show them what it takes? Wonderful workshops, demonstrations, letting people come on and understand what it takes to actually go through that resume look, right? Give them the confidence. If they're always on their phone, use that phone to your advantage and look this camera directly into that lens and say, hey, I need to understand what confidence is. Why not have
I
this
love that.
platform be the springboard to help them get to where they need to be?
I love it.
I
And
think
not a
all the toys are
meme.
lined up in
Not a
I'm
place.
this.
all for it.
I love that. I love it. Not a meme. Not a post. Not a. And that's how you'll get me to go live. I'll go live for that. I'll go live for
Yeah.
that because I just want to. I want the village to be strong. Like I'm always about village strong, and I think that is absolutely wonderful. Absolutely,
Yeah.
because now you have somebody in real time, real life, who is going to tell you the truth without trying to make you feel like you're lesser than. Because our goal is to prepare you for what you're about to come to. I
Because
love it.
we're addressing all of the symptoms, right?
Yep.
And we're seeing everything that you're not doing. And this is a
Mm-hmm.
direct reflection. Okay, well, you didn't get that job because you weren't in position or you were not ready. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what can we do from our perspective to get you in position and get you ready? Because we're looking to pass the torch.
Facts.
And with that,
Facts.
Angie, I made a post a couple weeks ago. What was the first holiday? Memorial Day. And I was disappointed to see that, most of the women were men in the cookouts. Like the barbecue uncle is becoming extinct. Andy, I need you to come on here and show them how to
Yeah.
fire up that grill, how to know things. Because again, think about it. Some of our most honored traditions are going to be extinct in a minute if we don't step in and say,
Mhm.
all right, go put the leather fisherman sandals on, and you got to slide them on where the back of your foot is hanging off.
I want to send a shout out to all
Fancy,
the
sir.
brothers who know what temperature to pull that brisket off at.
Come
There
on
you
now,
go.
brisket.
And if we can't do that, then we can't talk, bro. If
That's
you
why.
can't tell me what temperature to pull that brisket off at, we don't need to have that. We don't need to move any further
That's
in
why
the
Andy's uncle.
And
conversation.
I consider
That's
that
why
a life
Andy's uncle.
skill. I consider that a life skill.
So no, I don't
She,
care what season, what rub you use. I don't care how many times you may have wrapped it. That's cool.
but
What's
know
your
when to pull it
temperature
out.
before you pull it? Let's talk about that.
What's the temperature before you pull it? I'm not even gonna say. Okay, let me just. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because when a hush
Okay.
falls over Jerusalem on things like that, they're not ready.
They're not ready. That's
They're
it. They're
not
not
ready.
ready. And those are subsequent. Those are things that just. I mean, okay, I think we know when those are reasons to go live. I think you're right. The only way that we're going to be able to do it is to get it out there for people to be able to give real feedback. Pull your baby and say, here, you got somebody who ain't gonna hurt you, who's all for supporting you. Go over it with them, send it to them. Let us, there's tons of people out here who have had the services. I just don't think that we know what the village looks like anymore, to Tyan's point. So 3 more things in this survey. 47% dress inappropriately, 27% use inappropriate language, and 21% refuse to turn on a camera during their virtual interview.
That goes to
Okay,
that
can I
confidence.
address the attire? Because this is a
Go.
pet peeve of mine. To the young ladies out here in a job interview, understand how you're supposed to be dressed. This Real Housewives of Atlanta chic is not what is going to earn you the type of respect that you need on that job. Remember, all of that's fantasy. That's reality television. Also, we are the interviewers. There's still a certain level of how we are raised that we're looking at in here. Also, look at, there are EEOC rules as well. So again, if you don't want to put yourself in a position, or if I feel like a hiring manager is looking at your attire and saying that you're going to be a detriment because even though, people are supposed to exercise a certain amount of self-control in the workplace, but if your attire is distracting, then again, you are perceived as a loss to my business versus a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this Real Housewives of Atlanta, 6-inch, I'm a realtor wearing 6-inch heels going up and down slick hardwood floors and expecting not to fall. Again, somebody needs to pull the village in and say, baby,
that's not real.
There's a certain attire that you need to garner a certain amount of respect.
The eyelashes and the butterflies and the fingernails that are long enough to be a fingernail file long. I think, again, it's exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's us understanding that even though we have generations that we know who have experienced what this looks like, a lot of these kids are coming from this being that they are the first. And so their parents have done all that they could do to get them there and don't have all of the elements to teach them. No judgment, no shade, nothing against you. But that's why we're here, to Andy's point, to teach and to guide, right? But the realities of it is that some of these realities are not realities. Just because it's on your phone, it doesn't make it real. And I think that we have kids who are, it's kind of like people who learn from the after school special. How many of you learned about sex because of the after school special that came on about the little girl that got pregnant? That some of these conversations are just not being had. And so just to give a little grace, and I said it earlier, being the devil's advocate, not making excuses for them. But when I was in school, we had a certain day that we had to come dressed in professional attire.
Yes.
My mom put me to school. She was like, you need to have your blue. I had a blue, a brown, a black, and a gray. She taught me how to interchange. And so if that's not being taught, then we need to teach it. A black shoe, a black shoe, a black shoe, a brown suit. Well, not brown. Well, yeah, just basically how to interchange these things in order to show up professionally. Dress it down. You're not going to the club. You're going to an interview.
Can you wear J's to an interview?
Can you wear who?
Can you wear J's to an interview?
I mean, nowadays, because companies have what used to be professional attire is not what is professional attire anymore. Companies have gotten very casual in what they expect.
But
so you have to understand what casual looks like. Go ahead.
I'll elaborate on that because I work in a creative industry. Yes. And actually, when I first came in the industry, the creatives were allowed to, be a little bit more flexible and casual. But the client facing on the account side, it was buttoned up. But I'll say this, Andy, even still, that first impression, we get it. You come in for that interview, I need you to be professional. I need to know that you can switch it up whenever you need to. And then once you get the job, you come in, you have your orientation. We can talk about what the attire is so that you can feel comfortable there. But again, also, when you find your own niche within a company, your own personal style starts to come in. I mean, those 4 suit colors that Mia mentioned earlier was one of the reasons why I'm not an accountant, but I still had to wear suits on the creative side. I might throw in an electric blue suit every now and again, but I knew how to tone it up and I knew how to tone it down. But those are the things that we need to also teach them. But even still, it's the first thing is that first impression. I want you to take me seriously on that first impression. To the young men, your posture, and again, how you speak. No, I don't feel you in this interview. I'm not going to feel you every 2 seconds.
You feel me? I
am not your bro. I'm not your bro.
You know what I'm saying? Bruh. Yo, bruh.
Right.
The girls say bruh too, by the way.
Exactly. But even still,
why
I'm
you're
definitely
doing that.
Listen, I'm an only child. I have no siblings, so I'm definitely not your bruh.
I love it.
So,
I think this would be a great utilization for those who really don't know more about us. If you don't and you're seeing this for the first time, folks, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and share this with a friend so that they can get some of this real just like we are doing right now. Mia, what you feeling on this? Because you got your finger raised up and it's like something's about to come out your mouth. What's all that over there?
no, I appreciate the statistics, and I definitely appreciate this conversation, and I agree with what you said, Andy, about just being able to have this conversation with the masses, because our goal is for people to be comfortable with having a space to come to learn the do's and the don'ts in life, right? These are the things they don't clearly the statistics show they don't teach this in school. So if they're not teaching it in school, but you are being judged, because I almost want to know, it says the intelligent.com survey, and this was from 2023 for 800 employers. I'm interested to know who those employers were. That's a lot of employers.
Hopefully some of them
That's
are
a
still in business.
lot of employers. That's a lot of employers. So I'm interested to know, because while we say kids don't need school in order to get a good job, quote unquote, this is showing that school isn't preparing kids for the good job either. So now we have that general. No.
Let's say training.
Isn't what school is? Isn't school training? Isn't that what you go to school for? To get trained?
But also
13 years of commitment.
13 years. 13 years.
There's mentorship program.
There's a
my point is
there's mentorship programs, there's apprenticeships, there's training in certain
instances. but mentorship and all that is free. These are kids who went to school, recent college graduates.
Oh yeah.
And so Tiana and I will not go back and forth on this, because though I'm in college educated, I always say that sometimes go to school. I mean, what you going for? Because there are kids who don't go to college who do get these skill sets and do very well in professional places. So it's very disheartening that kids are graduating from school. I remember I had one of my babies, bless her little heart. She was an intern, had just graduated from college. And I asked her to do something. And I looked at her and I said, you just paid $100,000 and you can't answer this. It was not major specific. It was like, was it something from like creating a PDF? It was something very simple, like how to create it was something very, very simple, something that I know you knew how to do in school at some point in time. And she couldn't do it. I said, baby, you just paid $100,000. You don't know how to do this? I said, well, let me show you, because clearly they didn't teach you at school. And she went to one of those HBCUs. I'm just saying.
Wait a minute. What is that?
The ones, because you have the ones and then you have the others, right? Like,
the higher brow,
right. But that was the same thing when I was in high school. I went to an all-girl high school, and it was a very well-respected high school. But then I had a girl who went to one of the private schools. That girl got to school, and I was like, well, I'm glad my mama didn't send me to where you went, because you don't know anything. It's one of those. So I love this conversation, Andy, to your point. And it just confirms why we're here. But I would like to know, schools, if you aren't teaching these basic things, what are you teaching? And do these kids get a refund?
I'm saying, when are we going to invade campus and some of these professors and sit down with them and say, that?
How do you measure it?
Because I will pull up on my son's school in a minute and say, you know what, I want a refund. I have no problems doing it. But it's that was one of the things that may be a difference in our generation, because if we felt that we weren't getting our money's worth, we would speak up.
Right. Now we just
pay. You don't know what you don't know if you're not really prepared for it, right?
Right. But you don't know what you don't know, but you also, in hindsight, are like, well, wait a minute. Am I just supposed to pay here and sit and listen to you and turn in some papers? And even as I'm evaluating my grade, if I'm in the mediocre category, aren't you supposed to be helping me get to greatness?
Well, I guarantee you that these statistics have a lot of A plus students in these categories, guaranteed. Because a lot of these, I bet you, if we dug a little deeper, that these percentages don't include the C. I bet you there's the C-suite students out there excelling well because they weren't told that all they had to do was get good grades. They had to do a little hustle. They had to have a little bit more personality because their grades might not have been A plus. But I guarantee you that these struggle with eye contact are the ones they got all A's. Got summa cum laude and all over the
Because they
place.
spend all their time in the books,
In
and
the
it's
book.
not that whole well-rounded aspect of education.
Absolutely. So I think we can go on.
Teachers, quit touching them kids. Quit touching those
Come on.
students.
This boy right here. I swear, this
Leave them
we
alone.
signing out. Yeah, I mean, so I'm glad to have this conversation. I definitely think that we can discuss how we can do that. I heard one of y'all say, are we pulling up to a classroom? Maybe we need to pull up, have a conversation, sit in the business class. I don't know. We can
That'd be
utilize
super dope.
our
You just rolled
resources.
up on somebody's school like that.
I think we should.
I have absolutely no problems doing it.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. We're pulling up. Tell us where to pull up. Parents, where are your students? Where are your kids? Where's your kid going where you feel like you're paying a lot and they came home and you don't even know what you're paying for? Let us know because we might have to pull up. The Real University is real. And this is what we're here for. This is what we're here for. So maybe we need to pull up signing out. Are we signing out? We're signing out.
Signing out.
Signing out. All right.